The wind rolled slowly across the empty plains, carrying dust and the scent of dry grass over the lonely ranch that had stood there for decades. The sky stretched wide and endless above the land, painted in deep gold as the sun began its slow fall toward the horizon. Out there, far from towns and crowds, lived a rancher everyone in the county knew but few truly understood. Her name was Eliza Hartley, a woman whose quiet strength had become part of the land itself. People called her the loner rancher because she rarely spoke, rarely smiled, and rarely allowed anyone close. But no one ever questioned her courage. Eliza had built her life with her own hands. After her father died years earlier, the ranch had nearly collapsed under debt, storms, and greedy neighbors waiting for the land to be abandoned. But Eliza stayed. Day after day, she worked the cattle, repaired broken fences, and faced the endless silence of the prairie. The ranch survived because she refused to walk away. Yet on this particular evening, something felt different. Dust clouds rose along the narrow dirt road leading to the ranch house. 3 black trucks approached slowly, engines rumbling like distant thunder. Eliza stood near the old wooden fence, watching them without fear. She already knew who they were. For months, a wealthy land developer named Victor Caldwell had been trying to force her to sell the ranch. The land held hidden value because a new highway was planned nearby, and Caldwell wanted to turn the prairie into resorts and commercial property. He had offered money, then threats, then lawyers. Every time the answer had been the same. No. The truck stopped in front of the ranch house. Doors slammed. Boots hit the ground. 4 men stepped out, dressed in expensive jackets that looked completely out of place against the rough dust of the countryside. Caldwell himself stepped forward, adjusting his gloves as if the ranch disgusted him. "Eliza," he said smoothly, still refusing to listen to reason. Eliza didn't respond immediately. The wind lifted strands of her long dark hair as she stood there, steady and unmoving. "I gave you chances," Caldwell continued. "More money than this place is worth. But today we're ending this discussion." One of the men behind him carried a folder of documents. Another leaned against a truck with an impatient grin. Eliza finally spoke, her voice calm and low. "You've been trying to take this land for months." Caldwell smiled. "And I will. You can sell today and walk away rich, or things get complicated." The prairie went silent. Eliza slowly reached up and pulled the leather band from her hair. The wind immediately caught the long strands as they fell down her back. Then she did something that confused everyone standing there. She grabbed a knife from her belt. Before anyone could react, she cut off a thick section of her hair and let it fall to the dirt at her feet. The strands scattered across the dry ground like dark ribbons. Her voice came firm and steady. "This ends now." The men looked at each other, unsure what they were witnessing. Caldwell laughed softly. "You cut your hair. That's your grand statement." But Eliza didn't react to the mockery. Instead, she stepped forward and planted the knife into the wooden fence post beside her. "You see this ranch as land," she said quietly. "But this place is the promise I made to my father before he died. I told him I'd protect it no matter what." Her eyes locked onto Caldwell. "And I keep my promises." The developer's smile faded slightly. "You think stubborn pride is going to stop me?" Eliza nodded slowly. "No, but the truth might." She turned and pointed toward the barn. "Inside that barn are documents proving this land was illegally seized by your company years ago when you tried to expand your property line. I've spent months gathering proof." Caldwell's expression hardened. "You're bluffing." "I already sent copies to the county office," she replied calmly, "and to a journalist who's very interested in how you've been pressuring landowners across the state." The wind seemed to stop completely. The men behind Caldwell shifted uneasily. "If you touch this land again," Eliza continued, "the whole country will hear about it." Caldwell stared at her for a long moment. He had expected fear, panic, maybe desperation. But what he found instead was something far more dangerous. Resolve. Eliza Hartley had nothing left to lose. And people with nothing left to lose are the hardest to defeat. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Caldwell scoffed and turned away. "This isn't over." He climbed into his truck and slammed the door. Within seconds, the engines roared to life and the vehicles sped down the dirt road, disappearing into the rising dust. Silence returned to the ranch. Eliza stood there watching until the last truck vanished beyond the hills. Only then did she kneel and pick up the cut strands of her hair from the ground. The moment hadn't been about anger. It had been about ending fear. For months, Caldwell had tried to intimidate her, to make her feel small and powerless. Cutting her hair had been a symbol, a way of saying she was done being threatened. And in that moment, she had meant every word. This ends now. If you're enjoying this powerful story so far, take a moment to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories like this. Your support helps these stories reach more people around the world. As night began to settle across the prairie, Eliza walked back toward the ranch house. The cattle moved slowly in the distance, and the old barn creaked in the wind. This land had seen storms, droughts, and battles for survival, but it had also seen something stronger: determination. Over the next weeks, the story spread quickly. The journalist published an article exposing Caldwell's aggressive land deals and intimidation tactics. Other ranchers came forward with their own stories. Investigations began. The powerful developer who once believed he could buy anything suddenly found himself facing lawsuits, reporters, and public anger. Meanwhile, something surprising happened at Eliza's ranch. Neighbors began visiting. People who had once kept their distance realized the quiet rancher had been standing up not only for herself, but for every landowner in the region. They brought tools to help repair fences, supplies for the cattle, and sometimes just conversation. For the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel so lonely. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Eliza stood on the same fence where the confrontation had happened weeks earlier. The wind moved gently through the prairie grass. Her hair was shorter now, brushing just past her shoulders, but her gaze remained just as steady. A young rancher from a nearby property approached the fence. "You really scared Caldwell that day," he said with a grin. Eliza shrugged lightly. Bullies scare easy when someone finally stands up. The young man nodded. "Well, people around here won't forget it." She looked out across the land her father had loved. "This place was never meant to be easy," she said quietly, "but it was always worth fighting for." The prairie sky slowly filled with stars. Some battles are loud and explosive. Others happen in quiet places where courage speaks through simple actions. A promise kept, a stand taken, a moment when someone decides they will not be pushed any further. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is the courage to say 3 words. This ends now. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment telling us what you think, share it with someone who loves powerful stories, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next unforgettable story. Because the world is full of moments where ordinary people show extraordinary courage. And those stories deserve to be told.